my big cannon. How's it going, Terran House? And today we have the finale of the Lich Hunt. We're actually going to go and kill the Lich today. And we're going to be using Banshee for that. Now, I didn't record every attempt I made at the Lich because the Lich more or less spawns randomly. Yes, the more that you do missions against the Lich, the more likely he is to spawn. But I didn't want to have like 4+ hours because that's about how long it took me. Video footage just to throw 90% of it away. That just seems like kind of a waste. That being said, I did screw up my first stab. I forgot that I was making a video series, so I just stabbed him in what I like to call a random attempt, where you just try to see if whatever you have equipped just happens to be your Kuvalich's kill code. That did not work. Do not do that. It is very bad to do that. You want your Kuvalich to be as low level as possible so that they are as easy to kill as possible. And if you do it properly, you should be able to do it with no more than 5 stabs. And if you luck out, you can get it as low as 3 total stabs. So what you want to do when you're killing your Lich is go around and kill his thralls until you learn the first word. The first word that I had learned was Kra. What you do then is you will put the word that you know in slot 1. If you get lucky, that stab will work. And then you will know that Kra is step 1, and you can just hardline that in because the Kuvalich kill code does not change between your stab attempts. It is fixed. It will always be the same. I was unlucky. Kra was not the first one. So then what you'll want to do is if you have an Ool, you will put Ool in slot 1, so that way you can test Kra in slot 2. Ool is a very special mod in that it is always correct. You can't actually test slot 2 unless you know slot 1. So, because Ool is always correct, we can test if the first word that we knew is slot 2 just by stabbing it with Ool. If you don't have an Ool, it's going to be better to get all 3 of your words first. But we had an Ool, so we tested with Ool, and we found that Kra was slot 2. And this is part of the reason that I didn't actually record every attempt. He didn't actually spawn to fight me again until I had all 3 words, because I was doing it on a public... I was doing it on public missions just because doing it on public can get you more thralls spawned, and everybody who kills a thrall will build towards your word. So he just never spawned for me again. I think that's because I was on Mars and maybe mine wasn't on. No, because in order to select the mission, I would have had to have been selecting his territory. So I'm not quite sure why he just never showed up for me, but he never showed up for me. I was just unlucky. So I actually got all 3 words. So then I did what was known as a 50-50. I put Netra in slot 1 and Loke in slot 3, and I kind of just went for it. And as you can see, that was my kill code, was Netra, Kra, Jahu. So I have a level 4 Lich. I could have had a level 3 Lich if I hadn't stabbed him the first time I encountered him like an idiot. But hey, he would have been level 4 if I was wrong. So it's going to be about the similar level. It's just very important that you keep these guys as low of a level as possible before you're ready to send them to the Proxima. Because if they're a lower level, they'll be easier to kill. And then the level 5 Kuvalich territory missions are level 90 to 100, which when you're max build and you have all of this stuff under your belt is no problem. But when you're not, it can be kind of hard. That being said, I don't know, I just noticed this off script real quick. I don't know why Banshee is clipping through my mods, but it's kind of annoying. That being said, speaking of Banshee, we're going to use Banshee for this fight. Now, if I were you guys, I would recommend kind of your usual suspects of this frame doesn't die. So things like Styanax, Wukong, Clorivo, Revenant, Rhino. Those are going to be more important for you to just not die than it is going to be for you to try to one-shot this guy. And there are weapons that you can get that give you kind of an easier time when you're fighting your Lich to do that not dying thing, that it's probably better to bring one of those and just kind of take the fight long than it is to bring Banshee and try to one-shot it. Speaking of weapons that can one-shot it, the Kuva Heck. Now, my Kuva Heck is innately radiation. As you can see, this is a 60% radiation Kuva Heck. This used to be the weapon that we used to one-shot the Archons back when those were one-shottable, and this is the build we used for it. Now, normally, I tell you guys not to put primed point blank or serration Hornet Strike on a build with one of the merciless mods. That is because primary deadhead's 360% increased damage is the same as prime point blanks, and they're additive. Whereas if I put an elemental on here, it would be multiplicative and I would get even more damage. But because we're doing a boss fight and we're not necessarily going to want to try to stack up primary deadhead before we go and fight the boss, or maybe primary deadhead falls off while in the middle of fighting the boss, we don't do that, and instead we go on ahead and just go with the flow that is using the raw upfront damage. Primed ammo stock is on here just that way I have to reload less. Prime charge cell with primed incendiary coat is just for more radiation, and then atomic fallout gives us even more magazine size with even more radiation. You can flip these for whatever your Kuva Lich happens to be weak to. So I could put on gas if I wanted to. I'm not going to bother, because even though this guy resists radiation, I'm not even really going to be using this weapon to fight him. I'm just kind of showing the build for the Kuva Heck, because this is a weapon I would recommend that you get when you plan on going hard on hunting Liches and Sisters, because it is very consistent at one-shotting them, and then you don't have to use Banshee and run the risk of dying. What I do recommend you use for fighting the Liches is going to be a kit gun. The kit gun here is going to get its own video explaining where or why this is the stuff that's preferred, but the too long didn't read on kit guns is the chamber will determine what your projectile is, whether it be a laser, a full auto, a semi-auto, or like a projectile. And then you always go splat and haymaker because those give the best stats. The build that I've gone for Lifeform Disintegration right here, you do get to name your kit gun for free when you customize it. The build I've gone for is this. It is high crit, nice crit multiplier, mediocre status chance, but that's okay. Cascadia Flare. Even if you don't necessarily apply a stack of heat to an enemy, so the Kuva Liches have a maximum amount of status conditions they can be under the effect of, and it's capped at 4. Even if I don't apply another stat, bringing 4 to 5, this will still proc on refreshing the 4 stacks that he has. So that'll allow us to keep that 480% damage up. So then we don't need to run Hornet Strike like we do needing to run Serration or Point Blank on our primary weapons. We pair that with Pax Charge. Pax Charge and the other Pax Arcanes in general are unique to kit guns. This makes it so that this weapon is a battery weapon, so instead of reloading a magazine, we just stop shooting it and it will recharge itself, and it actually will recharge faster than we can reload because of that plus 50%. Even if you put an unranked Pax Charge on, you will still get that effect where it turns it into a battery weapon, which can be nice just because then you're not trying to worry about your ammo. Otherwise, we just have a very standard crit viral heat with galvanized shot. If you're wondering why my crit multiplier says that it's times 6 going to 4.8, I will explain that in just a moment. Put a pin in it. We're going to talk real quick about the Banshee and why is she the Warframe that I'm bringing for this. So Banshee does this funny thing where she has sonar. And what sonar does is you send out this pulse that marks the targets. Side note, you'll probably want to make sure that you do a nice, bright, or noticeable energy colors. That way you can see where to shoot the enemies. And with this build, we get just under a 12 times combo, or 12 times damage multiplier. We are running multi-augmented, so that'll bring it up to, I believe it's 12.6 when it's max stack. I could be wrong, but you can cast this ability multiple times and put multiple instances of the sonar sweet spot on the same target. And if it layers over itself, as you can see, it's kind of a big area in the effect card here, that layer will multiply its damage by itself. So we'll get 12 times 12 for 144 times the damage, which is just an insane multiplier. Banshee is probably one of the easiest frames to get a gun to hit damage integer cap in the entire game. However, Banshee has some of the lowest base armor in the entire game. As you can see, she only has 135 armor. And at max health, we only have 370 base. So she is very, very squishy. So to get around that, we're doing things that make it so that way we just rely on not dying thanks to our shields. We have catalyzing shields, which reduces our max shield from what it would be at 370, I believe. Let's just double check that real quick. We're going off script again. Yeah, so instead of having 370 shields, we put on catalyzing shield, bringing us down to 74. That paired with Brief Respite and all three of these auger mods, these will give us 120% of the energy that we spend on an ability as shields, and then this will give that an extra 150. So we're getting 270% of the energy that we spend on an ability back as shields. And our silence costs 93, so just casting silence will get us all of our shields back, or casting sonar will give us all of our shields back, and it will even overshield us a little bit, which means that our shield gate will go from that 1.33 seconds to 1.75 seconds, which will give us a lot of durability as long as we're playing properly. I've replaced Soundquake, which is the most nerfed ability in the entire game. This ability just isn't worth keeping anymore. I've replaced it with Zada's Whisper. Zada's Whisper will give us extra void damage, and the way that void damage is calculated is it takes all of your elemental damage, so heat, radiation, toxin, it'll take all of those, and that's what it multiplies that 61% by. So with things like our gaze here, we're going to take our heat, radiation, and viral, multiply that by 60%, and tack it on at the end. So we'll get a lot of damage out of there. Now, as for why my gaze has this effect where it says it's a 6 times, but now it's going down to a 4.8, that is because of my Smita. I will do a full breakdown video of companions at some point, but the TLDR is Tenacious Bond. Tenacious Bond is a mod that you can get from the business on Fortuna once you reach rank 3 on Fortuna, and it makes it so that as long as your companion has over a 50% crit chance, then you get 20% more crit damage. Bite gives your cat 330% crit chance, which brings us at 86%, which is over 50. So we get that. Just to give a quick kind of why use the Smita, Charm. Charm has a chance to double all of your resources. The kind of skeleton for the Smita is going to be Charm, Fetch, Bite, Tenacious Bond, Sharpened Claws. And the reason why is Sharpened Claws has a chance where the Smita will rend the armor of targets that you can't rend the armor of, such as the Kuva Liches. You can't actually armor strip a Kuva Lich with Warframe abilities, but the cat can rip it off for some reason. I'm not complaining about it. We have Metapet Ray just that way he has, or she rather, I'm sorry, Sona. She has that less recovery time, and she will heal a little bit whenever she goes invisible with Mischief. And then Prime Animal Instinct is just a nice thing that she gives us. That enemy and loot radar can be very nice. Synth Deconstruct is probably a mod that you can axe at this point. I have to actually see how that works with Equilibrium now. But Tech Assault just makes it... Oh, that's the wrong one. I want Tech Enhance. Tech Enhance gives the Kavat 30% ability duration, so Charm lasts longer and Mischief will last longer. That's the TLDR on the cats. So let's go on ahead and go up here into my cockpit and talk about the Plexus. This is going to be the last part we talk about before we get into the Kuva Lich Hunt itself, I promise. Now, the Kuva Lich goes to the Proxima, either I do believe it is Venus for the Sister of Parvos or Saturn for the Kuvalich, which means that you have to use a Railjack. This is the Railjack build. I will go over more detail of the Railjack in its own video. Railjacks have like 500 moving parts between the intrinsics and the crew, and how do you get the crew, and then there's these like battle mods that you can use and tactical mods. Like, what does all this stuff do? It needs its own video breakdown. Just for now, what you'll want is Hyperstrike for turret damage, Section Density for critical damage on your turret, and Predator for crit chance on your turret, and then an aura mod that will just give you the extra mod capacity so you can fit that all on. Ion Burn and Conic Nozzle are just that way we move fast. Crimson Fuge also just gives us more damage every time we kill something, but most of the damage on your Railjack is going to be coming from Seeker Volley. Unfortunately for me, because I'm Banshee, I'm actually not going to have the energy to sustain this, but you would want to bring like Protea or another frame that has more or less a bottomless pool of energy that they can pull from. And then tactical, the only thing that matters here is going to be Flow Burn, which will give us more speed when we're trying to get from point A to point B. But that is all of that, guys. That is a big breakdown, but I will see you in the Kuva Lich Hunt. Alright, and welcome on Terran House. As you can see, some of them have actually already started dying before I cut back into this. Because I have crew members on guns, and they are just getting ripped in half. So normally I would just spam Seeker Volley, but I am Banshee, so we can't, because I don't actually have the energy pool for that. Well, this is a... I just realized I'm going to be fighting with Cephalon Psi for who's going to be talking more. This is a basic exterminate mission. You just have to kill enough of the cruise ships and the fighters that you're allowed to fight the Kuvalich itself.
Direct attention to remaining targets. Enemy fighters are routing.
I'm not talking too much because I'm actually contemplating cutting out the Railjack part of this. Part of me wants to. I'm probably going to end up leaving this in. Just because the Railjack part is actually pretty impactful as far as all of this goes. My big cannon.
Cruise ship reactor has detonated. Pretty.
Oh, I don't have enough to make another dome charge. We're actually gonna have to go in and we're gonna have to slingshot into the cruise ship. Dang. I was hoping to avoid doing that, but I didn't pick up any titanium. I will say one of the nice things about all of the resources that you kind of get from Railjack is it's very easy to just shove this down your helmet's throat because you get so much of this stuff. And he doesn't actually eat too much. I did not need to weaken that thing to slingshot into it, and I picked up titanium, so I could just make a dome charge now, but I've committed.
Loaded. 10-0 in the barrel.
I've committed. Oh, and I'm dead. And there we can see Banshee's durability and all of its wisdom. Yeah, don't do this as Banshee. Just bring a good gun. I do want to show one-shotting them as Banshee, but jeez, this is gonna be rough. I probably should have put Gloom on instead of
Cruise ship has gone bye-bye. Alien.
I probably should have put Gloom on so that way the stun from Silence lasted longer. But as you can see, I didn't cast Silence to stun those enemies, and they immediately made me the deads. They unsubscribed me from standing. Alright. Alright. And now for the final part of this.
Tenno, here! Protect me! You! And you! And you! And you!
I probably need
All of
Rolling
you!
Guard more than I need.
Protect your lich! I need to think. Go! Tenno comes to kill me. Kill me! Will not.
Yeah, I definitely need to work on this Banshee build.
No! No! Found me! Found me, you did!
I did find you.
I need more time!
Well, you have something that I want, so you're not getting more time. Oh, then I died. Totama makes himself a liar by one-shotting the boss with the Kuva Heck after saying he would not use the Kuva Heck. And there we go. And one shot. Yeah, thankfully my sonar covered his entire body, so anywhere that I shot him just did 6 million damage.
Not a lich, not a good lich now!
I would not have called you a good lich, buddy. Alright, welcome back, Terran House. And yes, Ortis. So, when you kill your lich, you will get an inbox message that your weapon is ready to be picked up. So, let's just go here and pick it up. And we're going to go over the last part about this, which is how to valence fusion. Now, it's very important when you're valence fusioning that you do this right, otherwise you could lose a lot of progress. So here we have, this is my 5 forma, and we're going to double check this. We have my 5 forma.
For 3 milliseconds when he realized that each time he
Ortis.
cleans something, he makes something else dirty.
Ortis, please.
There I go again.
Ortis. You're not in the script, Ortis. So, as you can see here, we have my 5 forma, 44.3% heat Kuva crack. It is very important to make sure that the weapon that you are trying to keep is the one that you have equipped. This is the easiest way to make sure and remember which one you're trying to put into to tear down for parts, essentially. So if we click upgrade and we go to actions here, we have an option on all Kuva and Tenet weapons for valence fusion. So if I click this button, here's Gable's 48% magnetic weapon. What I can do is I can tear this one down. It will give me the choice. We're going to go with magnetic because I'm changing my build to be a galvanized build, and I want to make sure that I have magnetic damage. And as you can see, we'll take the 44% heat one plus the 48% magnetic one, and we'll get a 53%, and it will still be the Mukavak, or Mukavet, which was my original Lich that had one. All we do is type fuse. This is going to completely destroy Amuse Gable's Kuva crack, but it will give me magnetic damage at a higher percent on my current Kuva crack. Valence fusion successful. As we can see here, this has lost some heat damage. It now has magnetic damage, And if we go into my upgrade menu here and we type in a correct, we only have the one. It is very important when you are trying to level up these weapons and you are trying to max them out and give them the highest percentage that you can, that you always equip the one that you have put Forma on. That will prevent you from accidentally destroying a 5 Forma Kuva Crack and having to start from square one again. Anyway, guys, that is the Kuva Lich done. That is the end of this Lich Hunt. But next quote Lich unquote that we're going to be hunting is going to be a Sister of Parvos. We are going to talk about how to spawn them. Otherwise, the process is more or less the same, I'm going to be honest, but we will talk about how to spawn them later.